Avast me hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I be your captain, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is me first mate and skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Welcome, Mozz. Welcome, listeners. In a world of capes and lunatics, gods and monsters, in a galaxy far, far away, there are those who are just trying to get by. But in the Empire and in the Rebellion, there is no you. There is only Andor. That would be me. Season 1, Episode 2, Cassian attempts to lay low as Perich as agents of the law close in. Oh, Perich. Our writers this week we're not getting any writers credits? What is this? What is this? Once again, I had to hit another button. Ah, yes. Our director, of course, is Toby Haynes. We've got Tony Gilroy, with George Lucas getting our, of course, Star Wars Based On by credit. Beyond that, yeah, just all Tony Gilroy getting the created by and written by credit for this episode. Hard-working man here in show business. But, okay. So this episode, so we've got that, the cops are after him.
Right.
The man's got warrants and he's trying to hide, but he's not doing well. We meet, I guess, his mom character. I mean, is she his mom?
I don't know. She seems like she was just an elder. I get the sense from the flashbacks she's one of those people from that original tribe.
Yeah.
Maybe not the leader of the tribe that was shot in the back in that moment, but maybe she was one of the women that turned up and started screaming Cassian something, right?
Yeah.
Because when she sees all those weapons laid out there, she gets all nostalgic about it. Those were the weapons they used back then. So that meant something to her. They weren't just like, oh, why does he have these here, right? She was like, oh, I remember. Right. Like rueful about it. So I think she's one of those people from them. I don't know if it's his mom. But
yeah, well, she seemed like to be someone responsible for him because she makes the point about how she has always put, a different planet on his paperwork, not what was it, Cassin or Kasha.
And isn't her last name Andor? So he takes her last name.
Yeah, so maybe they're both Andors, and maybe she's the actual Andor that this is following, and we just don't even realize it yet.
Oh,
dun dun dun. Yeah, actually, that since I have the IMDb up, I can actually look to see who is everybody. Let's see, there's Casa, Alpha 1, Alpha 2, Alpha 3, Alpha 4, Alpha 5, Time Grappler.
And she seems like one of those people that has that Columbo quality where she's really sharp and observant, but she doesn't really engage. She'll never let you know until it's her moment to get something out of the situation. And then she's like, well, here I am. And she'll be her sharp, witty self. But
yeah. Sort of and yeah, I believe that is Marva. Yeah, Fiona Shaw is playing Marva Andor in this. Oh, it looks like she actually is like a senator later. There's stuff going. See, this is what I'm saying. There's all these things that are all going to come up later, man. I don't know. It's all exciting. One of my favorite characters in this is Alex Ferns as Sergeant Linus Musk.
Is that the guy who fills our antagonist with hope and
he's the short fat guy looking for a fight, which it's good to feel seen.
Favorite new character because like his motivations are so interesting to think about, right? Because like he thinks things should be done a certain way. He's obviously at odds with his superior. And now he's got like this guy who just shows up with a well full of good intentions, wanting to spend that good intention on something. And he's like, oh man, if I got a job, come here. I can use you. And he's got like this willing participant. And like he's, I think, who we really should be worried about.
The sergeant, right? Yeah,
he's
exactly,
because the other guy's job soon, and this is what he's working towards, and he's going to use him and run him underfoot. And now I go from like really hating this guy to going, oh no, now I feel bad for him because he's in the clutches of this guy and he's gonna get destroyed. And now all of a sudden I find myself rooting for him to survive, even though I don't like him. So interesting.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm actually thinking, I believe that's Kyle Soiler, who is playing, Kyle Soiler, whose name sounds like he could be a Star Wars character, who's playing Cyril Karn. I actually feel like he just sort of, like, this is the moment where he realizes how over his head he is. That maybe he should have listened to his supervisor who was saying, you know what? No, these were two drunks who got in a fight that they were not supposed to have gotten into, and they died, you know? We are not going to make this into a bigger problem than it is. And here comes Sergeant Musk, who's like, no, we can make this as big a problem as we want. And it's, it's almost funny because you also see that Sergeant Musk and his team there, who are clearly a bunch of, skull breakers, who are in Sergeant Musk's line of like, yeah, let's go, if anyone complains, let them know the monthly territorial meeting is on this other planet. Feel free to come and register a complaint, which of course has those Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy qualities of like, don't you know that the plans for this have been on display at your local planetary hub? Yeah, exactly. It's like, it is interesting in this way. One character I do want to call out here is our robot, our droid.
Before we move off the sergeant guy,
sure.
One of the, now it makes me sort of even think about like who's the guy in charge? What's his title? The guy who wanted to sweep it under the rug.
Oh man, he's not even in this one.
No, but what is his title?
Sergeant,
but the head guy, right? So I always found it interesting that it was important to him not to have this pursued, but he gave this guy rope enough to do it. And then I thought to myself, okay, maybe he's given him rope enough to hang himself, right? But he's not like a valuable prize, right? He's not a head you can mount on your wall, right? He's a peon, to nobody, right? So why? And then, okay, his rival in the hierarchy seems to be this fat sergeant guy. And maybe he put this piece of meat out in front of him so he could misuse something and mess up and make a mistake that he could catch him on. So I think, that's how he's being used by both of them.
And that is really, I think that's, and it is that interesting dynamic between the guy who has the desk job, wants to maintain the desk job, and has no real interest in doing things that might jeopardize the desk job, because that's the real thing of it. It's the, it's the old issue with communism. That that the Soviet Union could have been a lot more profitable. Probably could have continued on for many years more if they had really started being more aggressive in their oil excavation. But they didn't, because the person that was in charge of oil excavation knew that if he dug a hole and there was no oil and he wasted resources, he would lose his cushy desk job. When they went privatized, suddenly there's now an incentive. And more importantly, there's an incentive that even if this guy digs a hole and doesn't find anything and gets fired, there's 6 other guys that want to dig other holes that you can give money to dig holes for. And this is this idea that in this, in this imperial, in this capitalistic imperial system, the guy with the desk job because he knows he has a guaranteed income at his desk job and he likes his job because he doesn't have to do that much. He wants to keep it quiet and just maintain the status quo. He doesn't care that there are brothels. He doesn't care that there are bars. He doesn't care that there's a completely active illegal thing that doesn't cause trouble. The huts can move as much merch as they need to off the back of a truck. It doesn't cause them problems so long as the huts maintain their order and we maintain our order.
Right. I mean,
and this guy,
it's not completely a deplorable viewpoint. It's not, I mean, like,
no, not in the slightest.
Right. I mean, like that maintaining of a semblance of order that convinces everybody to go along with the plan is unbelievably important, right? We can't overlook it. You know, that narrative that everybody clings to that says, okay, things are all right. Right. I'm not going to go crazy because I see that things are all right. That understanding between you and the people in charge being strong is unbelievably important. And so there is a measure of nobility to the idea of maintaining that order and that every little piece
and more to the
thing that pops up. And if you think about it, really, you know, these were guys that shouldn't have been doing what they were doing. So like in a measure, he's doing the right thing by allowing justice to be moved out in a place where bureaucracy might have clouded the outcome.
Exactly. And more to the point, I mean, this is really where this whole thing starts to roll downhill, is as it rolls downhill, as things get escalated, that's how a drunken bar fight becomes the Boston Massacre. And things get to this point where suddenly Andor is the hero of the rebellion, not a guy who got into a drunken bar fight. You know, it's like, how does the legend spread? And we even see this in this one where apparently Andor has had problems, which again, you know, when they read it out there, it's like assaulted an Imperial officer, destroyed Imperial property, which sounds like he's a terrorist, but it might have been that, you know, he publicly urinated on something on Coruscant and punched a stormtrooper, you know? I mean, like, really, it could be a lot more on the rap sheet than it really was in his actual crimes. Just like this, yeah, it's murder. It's murder most foul, but it's also murder of people that were trying to shake him down. It was literally a self-defense crime. You know, in a world without self-defense, you know, where that's not a, you know, where you don't get to defend yourselves against the man when the man is corrupt. And the guy who's running things is just saying, look, these guys were corrupt. I don't care if they were, you know, which honestly is like your goal with that. That's what a boss should be, is the guy who says, I don't care if they were, you know, wearing our colors. They were doing bad. They don't belong to us. I'm just glad they're gone, you know? And, you know, that's actually, you know, it's always interesting how you can see the bureaucrat as the hero in a story, if you're willing to think beyond just the adventure part of it, you know.
So here's the interesting thing. Since, like, you know, life often lands you in situations that don't have clearly defined answers one way or the other, the only thing you can do is create a bureaucracy where this guy has this intention and someone over here has this intention, and let's just let them work it out. And whatever comes out is what we have to be comfortable with, because we're not capable of structuring an argument that arrives at a solid, believable answer to everybody's, you know, so we have to leave certain things to that dynamic. And that's how we move things along, and that's okay.
I agree. So I did, you know, so the droid in this, who is really, he's cool. He is like such a little Roomba vacuum, whose purpose we do not know. Is that?
But I love
that. Yeah, BTEMO, I believe his name is.
That it BT extra energy to lie.
Yeah, well, it caused, and clearly this guy, and this was the first time we ever see a droid with their batteries low. Because he, like, in one moment where he's trying to have the conversation with Andor and his mom or whoever, you know, he just, you know, he says, this is the message that has come in, and then they don't even bother to plug the poor kid in. And that's, to me, that's like, there are times when the treatment of droids in this universe really starts to irk me, you know. It's like, yeah, okay, I know they're droids. I know this is what they were built for, but still, go plug the guy in. He clearly has given his all telling your lies. Plug him in for a bit. Let the guy recharge.
It just makes me think, like, why? Why does it cost more energy? Is there code internally written that he has to fight, that he has to expend energy into occupying with something so that this message can get through the barrier? Or like, all these thoughts are just so fascinating and so interesting to me. I love that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it makes sense to me because he obviously must redirect. So it's like this. There's like yes, no questions, but then when he has to be creative, that takes more energy. So he has to redirect the energy that would normally go just to straight yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. These are the parameters. Now he has to remove into a different section of his memory to say, if asked this, reroute to that.
Or could it be something as simple as this? Like there's some sort of moving part in there, or something that creates some sort of electromagnetic pulse or energy, right? And it's by the system that measures whether or not a truth is being told or not. And it just could be simply you vibrate that and create a field, and it's unable to detect for a moment. So information gets by undetected, and then when you turn this vibration, I mean, it could be so many things, but it's just so
exactly.
And it might well be that kind of thing, because it can't have been something that was placed there by design, right? These are some, and then if that is the mechanism by which he is able to lie, who came up with it? Did the droids came up with it? Did the AI and the droids come up with it? Or was it implanted there from the beginning as like a failsafe that you can pay extra for, like power windows or something? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's always, droid lore is always very interesting, just in the sense that, I was just noting a point about like when Anakin builds C-3PO, it's like, how does C-3PO have this entire knowledge base? And it's like, oh, there must have been a place he could have downloaded it off of, the Imperial net or the Republic net, that you could get these patches to feed into your droids when you build them at home.
There's probably like an intergalactic cloud, housing everybody's information that you can just.
Or there's just a lot of busted up droids on Tatooine, and that's what he made C-3PO out of.
So everybody has like old Encarta encyclopedia CDs just floating around.
Yeah, exactly. So there's just all this stuff laying around, and he's like sticking them into it, So it's a possibility, man. I liked we get the girl who is the dealer in items. So we do have the scene with Cassian and her at the bar. And we also see, and it's interesting because we do see her go home to her, nice stable.
Who sees them there, by the way.
Yeah.
After watching her computer and seeing the alert.
Yeah.
That got her so frazzled that she needed to leave right away. He sees them.
I know.
Already getting ideas.
But I actually think that this was great because it did show that she knows what she knows what she wants. She knows who she wants, and it's not Cassian. She likes her home. She likes what she does. She does not want to be with Cassian, riding out on the rails. She knows Cassian is someone she feels obliged to, but she comes home to her husband or whoever he is to her, and you see the love between them.
Continues to lie to him.
Well, spousal lies.
I'm just saying, I don't think he really knows the real her, right? She's never let him see, or like a piece of her, but like who she is when all the guards are down, that guy doesn't know who that person is. And she's still not showing it to him. And the reason she comes back to him and is all out of guilt, sheer guilt. That's what drives her in that moment. And I think that's what I found so interesting about that moment. He sees her for what she's doing, but he lets her play the game, and he's waiting in the morning. And then those moments are so interesting. And the way those two played it too was so interesting to watch. It was really
I guess I'm just the hopeless romantic, Mozz. So that's the thing.
There's ways to look at
to me,
that's another way to look at it.
To me, it's that he knows. he is well aware of who she is, even if she doesn't
beginning to find out.
Well, I think, and that's the thing. And that's the thing when you're a couple is like, I think sometimes there are unspoken truths in your relationship that you just, there are certain things you just don't want to ask because even if you got the answer, what is the answer? Like, what is the answer you want to hear and what is the answer you're afraid to hear? And if you even got the worst answer, what are you going to do with that then? And in this, it's sort of like, did you ever see the film Chasing Amy?
Yeah.
And there's that scene where she's talking to, who is that? Ben Affleck, I think.
Yeah.
Because she finds out that she kind of had a reputation in high school. And she basically says, what, you want me to tell you that, they did this and it was this and that and the other. And,
that's different because like, this is still who she is, right? He sees her be a version of herself that he doesn't know with somebody from her past. And he's like, wait a second, this is not, that's somebody else. Why? I've never seen that person or like that's that.
No, but I mean, if nothing else, clearly he has seen that person. He sees that person every day. He knows this person comes into the place. He knows he knows that her and Casson have a relationship in a way that, all things being equal, he knows it's the thing. He knows that's where they're at. He may not necessarily like it that much, but he's willing to work with it. And because he's willing to work with it, he's willing to say, you know what? Okay, I know this is her sideline.
But he has already made the call to alert the authorities, right?
I don't know. I don't know if that's clear.
He makes a call somewhere like right after he sees them. He sees the Canary Mill, whatever that they're looking for him, and then he goes to the payphone right after he sees them talking.
Oh, was that him? I thought that was actually Casson making a phone call.
No. That was him. That was
okay. So maybe that's my mistake. So
like, that's what's so interesting. They're like he's like, oh yeah, you know what? You don't know, but I called him blah blah blah. And it's like, to me, he looked at it like, those scenes they always put in movies where the guy messes up and he tries to like buy some jewelry and come to the woman, I got you flowers, I got some jewelry, can you forgive me? That's what I saw from her, but she's using herself as like, oh, here, I'm really into you.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think that she is into him, but I don't know. I think that there's a lot of things going on. We're going to have to see, Mozz. We're going to have to see
I don't know if there's
who winds up as the hero of this.
Yeah, I don't know if there are any good choices to be had with the situation anyone is presented in here. But that's what makes it interesting. But I think that's what I saw going on, and that's what made it really fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how it is all playing out. We do see, and again, this is the one where we do hear about the mining disaster on Kasha, and we do see them and it's interesting because we see that, and I mentioned this last time, that it seems like it is a society that is aware of the outside world, that has qualities of it, that it almost seems like refugees living on Kasha. And we see like old equipment that has been left derelict. We see the abandoned mine.
In the flashback, right.
Yeah, in the flashback. And then we see the ship has crashed, and we see the people coming to basically forge the ship. And the one, person who comes out of the ship alive shoots the girl, and then they all shoot him with the darts.
Okay, why would you wait till they all just stood there like slack-jawed, like, and then he shoots her and they go, because we have weapons. What? Who gave us these?
Well, first of all, I don't know why he shot the girl, because he clearly didn't. That's the thing. It's like, I think they weren't expecting survivors. Right. And in fact, when the body falls out of the thing, she's a little shocked too.
I guess it just,
and it's a dead body.
Kids. I guess that they're all kids. Because the minute the guy gets up, you have your weapon trained on him because your leader's down there, and they were all just like, duh.
Well, yeah. Well, because I do think they are, like you said, they're just kids. These were kids. These were the kids out looking for the dead body, in Stand By Me. And these are, we're going to go. And even if they're going to do a little foraging party, I think it was like, have the kids, scavenging, whatever, hopefully they don't blow anything up on their way back. And, 80s kids, am I right? Yeah. They're all going out there to see what's out there. And then when they get there, they weren't expecting what they got. And then immediately, this guy shoots the girl for no good reason. Because first, if I get in a crash and I see someone approaching me, my first reaction is going to be, hey, help. Help, or like, hey, I don't want no trouble, man. So obviously he was a person who was looking for trouble, quite frankly. Was not or had enough read on his ledger that he does not expect anyone to treat him with respect.
Either that, or he was just like a person that got into a job he was not prepared for, and all of a sudden, his bomb goes off, releasing gas. All his people are dead. He crashes, and he thinks he's dead. All of a sudden, he wakes up. I'm not dead. Oh my God, where am I? And he's just like, never been in a situation like this before. Just got some corporate delivery job, and all of a sudden, this is happening to him. And he freaked out.
Yes. It's rough there, and it's rough that we also don't get what the continuation is. We got to wait for next episode. One thing we do know is that the buyer is en route. The buyer is en route, we are told. And I believe was that Stellan Skarsgård? Who
are they trying to tell us that as he's landing there, Cassian is leaving?
Yeah, Cassian is trying to get out of town, which makes sense. You got to get out of town.
But he just called the meet, and he needs to sell this thing in order to have any money to do anything. So why is he leaving?
Well, maybe because he knows the guy's en route, so he knows maybe he can get it. The guy can get in, he can get the money, and he can get out of town. So maybe that's the premise.
Okay, he's going to do the transaction and then leave and have it.
Yeah, I think that's why it's like, I have to be out. It has to be by 9. It has to be this and the other thing. My my favorite part of this is the traveling salesman. And it's just such and it is one of the things I think works about Star Wars is the fact that it is effectively, frontier tech. It is this idea that, even though we live in this super advanced scientific future, so much of it is still just, long rides from point A to point B. There's, you have the Empire or the Republic, you have the cavalry that's out there, but, cavalry that's out there, but you don't really interact with them that much. It's just, everybody's just sort of going from place to place and moving one item from another. And I think that's a really interesting aspect. And of course, you have in this traveling salesman, a propulsion salesman, where he's going to sell you all the latest upgrades and all the latest things that his company provides. You can see he's got the 2 metal suitcases there. Because he's going to go and he's going to show you what they have. And he's also probably there buying stuff because that is the thing with Perich, is that it is a junk planet where all the ships come. So he's there to see what has been pulled out, what everybody is buying and what everybody is selling. And he's there to sort of say, okay, I can take these items off your hands and get them into some other people's hands, or I can sell you this other thing from my other providers so that you can do that. So that's cool. And I liked him talking about, just the bureaucracy of travel. Because that is also the thing. It's like, we're, because he's going to the guy and he says, we're just circling right now. Just anybody that's been in an airport, they're stacked up. They can't let us land. And then goes, they used to just drive you out, but then you're tasting the desert for like 3 days later, So it's those slice of life things that always make this good. Like the guy who rings the bells in the morning and at night.
Such an interesting aspect. And I kept thinking to myself, like, how does he know when to ring the bells? Like, he's so specific about it. He has a certain routine. And then I saw something where they were like, that's how everybody in the town sets their watches. So it's not like that he's following they're following his schedule. So when he decides, he's like the sun rising or whatever, when he rings those bells, that's when the day starts and everybody sets their clocks to that. And I was like, what a fascinating concept. It's not like some universe. But we decide, and we all have this unified moment that we.
Yeah, well, but I think there's probably a moment that he does it too, right? Because you do see that he's waiting,
right?
And he goes now, and that's
it's to his internal clock or whatever his perception of.
Well, no, because he might be watching the sunrise, so it's like when the sun gets to this many degrees,
right? But it's not. It's more that it's like sort of his decision when to do it. When he sees it, he does it, and we go like that. He's an intermediary, sure, but like it is sort of the pivot point, the fulcrum that decides it. It's such a really interesting concept. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I think it worked well in this. I think that it's interesting how, and again, like I say, it is that futuristic frontier life, or in this case, provincial life. It's he's the clock tower. He rings the bell. He starts the day, and everyone doesn't start their day until then. And you can see that people are waiting because as soon as he rings the bell, people come out of their shops. Yeah. As it is, and it is, I guess, in its own way, maybe that all clear to say, okay, the curfew is over. You're allowed out now, and everyone's waiting to make sure that they can leave the house, because if you're out before or after, there may be, a guy like Sergeant Mozz out there just looking for his promotion, looking for who he's gonna get in trouble. So
just in case there's an announcement today, the bells will start a little bit later.
Yeah, it's daylight savings, so I got my daylight savings right. I thought daylight savings was this weekend. It's next weekend. So.
Oh, is it really? We're losing an hour, right?
No, we're gaining an hour. We're falling back.
All right.
I woke up so rested this morning. Oh, yes, I got that extra hour. And then my wife woke up and said, no, actually, that's next weekend. I just double checked. We reset our clocks for nothing. Right. Oh, okay. So any final thoughts on tonight's episode, Mozz?
I'm really, really digging so much about this show. So many of the characters have like really, really nuanced and well-entrenched backstories that are there to explore simply by the power of the performances of these actors. Like Stellan Skarsgård, in that moment where he's getting annoyed by the salesman, like that's your introduction into the series, right? But he plays it so stoic. He gives us so little, but like in doing that, he gives us so much about who this character is. Really, really phenomenal performances. Or like when Cassian is being interviewed by the travel sales, not the guy arranging his trip. As Canary, you see him look up like, oh, and then he like has a moment to himself, which is exactly what somebody in that situation would do. It wasn't like every single movement is really well thought out by all the actors in this series. So I'm really digging it so far.
Yeah, and actually that's also one of my favorite scenes because we do have the other alien race speaking their alien language, and them just like they each just speak their own language, but they both talk to each other, and like no one is changing their ways for anybody. That was just like, I know, because he does understand it. He says, yeah, I know, just leave me alone. I know what I'm doing is wrong, but you know what? You don't sell the tickets, I do. Let me do this. And that was great. And that's the thing. It's like every aspect of this I really think is working very well. I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. Now, as I understand, it just ramps up the intensity as we go. So it's a nice slow burn. And you're going to get to that dynamite eventually, and that's going to be exciting.
But you get there with characters that you care about. And it's going to
Oh, well, exactly. Yeah. Because that's what makes it. You have to care about who these people are. You need to know whose butt it is and why it is farting. That's just the truest line ever written. All right, Mozz. If people would like to reach out to you, talk to you about Andor or anything else, or the new, I highly recommend the Tales of the Jedi series that just dropped on Disney Plus. It's in the Clone Wars style, and it's like the first two are Ahsoka as a baby, and sort of where she gets force sensitive, and sort of it's interesting because you almost see this idea in that one about being a Jedi is more than just being recruited. That, the babies who were force sensitive, you kind of get this idea about them. And then the second episode is Count Dooku as a good guy dealing with the corruption in the Senate. So that's really powerful too. I've only seen the first 2 episodes, but I highly recommend both. And Trish and I are going to watch more later. So, okay. But that's my big recommendation. And if people want to talk to you about anything, Mozz, how can they find you?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And of course, you can always write to the entire Capes and Lunatics network at CapesandLunatics, all spelled out, at gmail.com. Call us and leave us a voice message, which we will play on the air happily if you want us to, at 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. And of course, go down to Linktree, linktr.ee/CapesandLunatics. In our show notes, they're going to see all of our merch, all of our schedules, anything that we're going to be talking about in the near future. And of course, ways to give us money through the Cash App or just by becoming a Patreon. But get yourself some aluminum mugs too. It's always good. And then when you're done all with that, or if you don't want to do any of that and just want to talk to me personally about this show, about super connectivity, which is coming back with me and my new sidekick, sometimes Mozz, sometimes the other guy that you're going to meet tonight, at Charlie Esser, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And of course, follow me on the Twitter when I go there again, although now it's owned by Mr. Musk, so I have to be careful when I go there. Who knows what they're going to censor me about then. I might want to promote direct current energy, and they may not like that. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing.
Thank you, Mozz. All right, dear hearts and fair maidens, you have come to the end of another rollicking sail across the internet and streaming content. Join us again next week as we once again sail full stream ahead.
Yarr.
Arg.